Dr. Davies, and all supporters of Queens, on behalf of Catherine and myself, I thank you for this honor to represent my mom and Beth. I don't know that I've ever had that opportunity. I've been around Queens all my life, as you might expect. My mother was a graduate of Queens and a trustee, and then, of course, Beth followed in her footsteps. So on more than one occasion, I've heard around our dinner table your motto, not to be served, but to serve. Now, a lot of times that meant get up and go to the garden and pull some vegetables for us. But it applied, I hope you're going to see in a few minutes, to Beth's life. It had quite an impression on her. Just a word to the donors. I so respect what you've done. You have isolated a gift in education. I think that is so important. It is a complicated world that we live in today. And one of the central issues that catches my attention as a businessman is how to improve salaries for our young people. There are a lot of different suggestions on that I've observed. Some adjust our trade policies as we go forward. A second, to become maybe less global. I don't happen to agree with that, but what we can all do is spend money in the right kind of way on education, and you've done it. And so thank you, and I commend you. And I want to, oh, by the way, I want to do my part. Adelaide, you don't need to call me about a gift. I went online yesterday to Q United, and I made it. So just don't even pick up the phone. If you know Adelaide, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I couldn't dare stand up in front of you and not make my annual gift. So, to the students, I would just simply say, look around you. There are a lot of generous people here. And one comment about generous people. You're going to find that they're forward-thinking. They're thinking more about your future. You're going to find they're not self-centered. They're more interested in helping others. And you're also going to find they're optimistic, that their gifts can make a difference. And someday, I hope you can be sitting at this same table and participating in this same kind of generosity group. Now, a couple of stories about Beth. And as you know, we grew up on a farm. Beth fed the chickens. I fed the cows and the dogs. Now, I have a picture that I hope we'll be able to put up. I don't know. There it is. That's Beth. A picture says 1,000 words. You can't really see it in this picture to the degree that it happened in reality, but Beth was making a cake for a family gathering. She hit something wrong on the mixmaster, and I'm sure it was her fault. It wasn't the mixmaster's fault. And batter went scattering everywhere. But Beth didn't sweat the small stuff. And what I mean by that, it didn't make any difference if a new blouse had to be put on and it didn't match her skirt. The key was that the family was there and we were all gathered together, and let's just move forward. Now, a funny story about Beth. She got interested in business. She was a stay-at-home mom, but got interested in business by keeping books for a nonprofit. And then she decided to go back to Queens for a master's degree. After she received that master's degree, she and Ravenel decided to go to New York and start an investment business. Off they went, and within about 2 months, I got a letter from Eagle Capital, Fifth Avenue, and then the zip code. And I'm thinking, now how the heck did they get a Fifth Avenue address? after 2 months of being in business. So I picked up the phone and called Beth, and she says, well, there is a little story behind it. And I said, what is it? And she said, actually, there is a Gucci retail store just below us. We are on the 3rd floor, and it was a storage room. And you can't really get there by 5th Avenue. You have to go to the back lot and enter through the back lot. And oh, by the way, don't worry about the service elevator that you have to take up. And that was her start. Very creative. And then I'm happy to say that today they manage $25 billion. And it has turned out to be a very, very successful enterprise. But started, I would bet that is the cheapest rent on 5th Avenue that's ever been had. And it was a storage room they were in when they started. In closing, Beth was energized by Queens, by the meetings, by the trustees, by Pamela, your leadership. And she would come back from those meetings talking about the leadership skills that she'd seen, talking about all of the positive parts of Queens that were taking place with not only with faculty, not only with students, but she loved the staff and leadership that was supported around. And so I thank you for enriching Beth's life through this opportunity. In closing, I'm going to read one quick story. It's one paragraph, and it was written by my sister about a year and a half before Beth died. And it was about a trip that my sister took to New York City. And they were going to the Lincoln Center. And so the one paragraph I want to read to you is this. When we got to the entrance of Lincoln Center, there was a rumpled-looking man standing at the door, holding a sign saying, "Need a ticket." He appeared to need a shave. He needed a haircut badly, and he was wearing a coat that was way too big for him. Beth reached into her pocketbook and pulled out a ticket and gave it to him. He tried to ask how much, but Beth just shook her head and said, "Follow us." The man looked surprised, and so was I. This was Melinda saying. But he followed us inside. The usher walked Beth, the stranger, and me to our seats. I must admit I was quite nervous that this strange man who we did not know was sitting right next to me. I thought, we don't do this in South Carolina. The quiet man did not move for an inch for the whole concert. He never took his eyes off the musicians, soaking it all in, and he never said a word to us. In the cab on the way home, Beth told me she thought he was a struggling musician who could not afford a ticket, but she was so happy that she had an extra one to share with him. So I say to you, thank you for making a difference in Beth's life, in my family's life, and it's not to be served, but to serve.